Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden and we're going to have a look at another brewery who I have never tried anything from before. So for this review then we are going to head up towards the Stockholm area, but we're going a little bit to the south of the city to Nyköping, which is right on the coast, and we're going to have a look at my first ever beer from Nyköping Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called the Ekuanot Call This IPA. It comes in at 6.5% ABV and it is a New England style IPA, this one. So this beer was released on the 1st of June 2020 through the Lokalt Osmoskoligt assortiment in Systembolaget, along with the Palace Pills, which you will see me review in a few videos time. So very curious to see how this one turns out. And hopefully it turns out to be another very interesting beer. I always enjoy introducing new and very small Swedish breweries to you here on the channel. I enjoy introducing new breweries to you wherever they're from, to be honest. But yeah, always cool to support the Swedish beer industry, of course. But yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and hopefully you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future from Nyköping Brewing Company. Very first time I'm trying one of their beers, as I said. There's all the usual social media down there too. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, oblast, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Nyköping Brewery then, on to my brewery notes. So Nyköping Brewery, as the name suggests, and as I've already told you, are based in Nyköping, a bit to the south of Stockholm. It looks as if it's about an hour and a half away from the city, but the company was founded back in 2017 by Jonas Kandefelt and Sasse Seprazar, if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. But Jonas has a lot of experience in the brewing industry. He worked for Spendrup's Brewery for a very long time. He worked for them during the 1990s, and then he also served as the CEO of Nils Oskar for over 10 years until 2016. Sasse, on the other hand, has a background in the restaurant industry, and he runs the restaurant 8 in Nyköping, and he's run a number of others as well. But both work in the day-to-day operations of the brewery, and they recruited Patrick Holmqvist as their brewer, who previously worked with Jonas at Nils Oskar as well. So a very capable brewer behind the brewery in this one as well. But the brewery started brewing their beers at Värmlands Brewery back in 2017, but in 2019 they managed to set up their own brewery in central Nyköping, and this is a building that, it's in an old building which looks quite nice actually, but it was previously part of the Södermanland museum, and if you look at the pictures of this, it looks as if they've done it up very nicely. So they bought a 1,000 litre brewing kit from Coppersmiths Brewery, and then a number of 1,000 to 2,000 litre fermenters, and I think they are planning to expand that at some point in the future if everything goes well. They've got an on-site bar and restaurant as well. The menu looks very nice, and as of June 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, they have produced around 38 different beers according to Untappd, which I guess will probably be pretty accurate since this is quite a new brewery. I think this, I'm not sure if this might have been the first month that they've been released in Systembolaget, so maybe June 2020 is their first release through Systembolaget, but I think it was August, I'm sure so it was either April or August of 2019 that they got their tanks and things to actually start brewing at their own facility as well. So yeah, you can go and check out the restaurant on site. I think it was open Thursday, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, if I remember correctly, and yeah, I think it looks pretty damn nice. As I say, they've got a really nice, quite modern brewery setup, I have to say. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Nyköping Brewery at the moment. A nice, very new company, of course, and hopefully it goes well for them. You know, they've got a lot of experience in there with the people who they've recruited. So they are I think they have hired, I think they hire about 6 or 7 people or something like that, and the main team The main two guys, Jonas and Sasa, are still are involved in the day-to-day running of the brewery as well. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about them. If you want to learn more, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this one then. So I'll let you have a little look at the artwork of this before we open it up. There you can see right in the middle of the can, there is the Nyköping Brewing Company symbol, which is quite nice. I wonder why they went for the English rather than just calling it Nyköping Brewery. So yeah, I'm not quite sure about that. Maybe they are planning to scale up and export. Yeah, 6.5% New England IPA. This one, it's hopped with Ekuanot, which we know is a lovely big limey hop. It's got Styrian Wolf in it, which I've had a few times as well, which is a lovely kind of melony hop. You know, I learned about that one from Davor, my Slovenian beer mule. And there's also a little bit of Mandarin Bavaria from Germany as well. So I think this one should be a very, very interesting beer. But 6.5% New England IPA. It says it's got wheat and oats in it, this one. So hopefully it's nice and balanced actually. So yeah, let's get this guy out. A 440ml can, and I think this one cost me about 40 Swedish crowns, as most of these kind of New England beers do. So let's get it out and into the glass then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. And I'll tell you straight away, you can smell the lime off this. From what I remember, Styrian Wolf can give you a little bit of lime, but it also gives you a hell of a lot of lemon too. And Mandarin Bavaria is going to give you some lovely, noble hoppy characters, along with a good bit of kind of nice juicy orange as well. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, it actually pours, it looks a bit more like a West Coaster, to be honest with you. You can see there's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. That tells you there's a good bit of wheat in the beer, because usually wheat helps it retain its head a little bit more. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But if I shine the light through this one, it's definitely not the haziest of New Englands that you're going to come across. It actually could pass for a West Coaster almost. But yeah, definitely fair to say this one is a nice kind of pale golden straw colour. If I put my fingers behind the glass, there you can see definitely not the haziest within this New England category. But it says it's got wheat and oats in it, so yeah, pretty much it's firmly within the New England category. So yeah, looks pretty nice, this one. Nothing overly surprising about the appearance other than the fact that it's not a little bit more hazy, but we'll soon see when we put the rest of it in. Maybe it will haze up a little bit more. There could be a wee bit of sediment towards the bottom of the can. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. It actually does smell pretty damn nice, I have to say. Comes across, the first impression of this one is really quite citrusy and zesty, but with these hops that are in here, you would expect that. So yeah, the malt base, I have to say, it comes across as really quite light and drinkable, to be honest with you. It actually does remind me a little bit of some of the Malmö Brewing Company beers that I've had. The aroma that you get off of this one, it doesn't feel like the heaviest and soupiest of New England IPAs, but then it doesn't look like it either. It does look, it really does look very similar to some of the beers I've had from Malmö Brewing or Fjällmarnas Brewery as well. Reminds me of a few of their things, like the Dubel Larsen and stuff like that. So yeah, the aroma of this one, you get a nice little bit of a white bready quality out of it. You do get a little bit of the kind of wheaty notes there. You can smell a little bit of bitiness from the wheat at the back of the nose, but then you've got a bit of the smooth roty quality in there. A wee bit of a biscuity malt too, which is nice. But yeah, you've got a really nice kind of you have got a really nice, quite nice balance to the malt base here. It does come across as being a little bit crisp as well, so maybe there's some Pilsner malt in there as well. It told you on the website what hops were in it, but it didn't tell you what the malt base was. So yeah, the aroma of this one, I think, comes across a little bit light white bread, as I say, a bit of a more bitey, wheaty note to it, a little bit of oaty creaminess and some kind of biscuity sweetness too. But yeah, it does come across as leaning more towards the bready and slightly wheaty end of the New England spectrum. On the hoppy side of things, it's interesting how it goes together. I mean, you've got a little touch of earthiness there, which I would reckon is from the Mandarin Bavaria. I do wonder, the Mandarin Bavaria is the lower of the alpha acid hops in this one. I mean, it's Mandarin Bavaria is usually between 8 and 9. Ekuanot, I think, is around 14, and if I remember rightly, the Styrian Wolf is pretty high. I think that can be around sort of 12, 13ish as well. So I wonder if Mandarina Bavaria has been used as the early addition and bittering hop, or maybe they've got something else like Columbus or whatever in here as well. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things, you do get a nice little bit of floral aromaticity to it, and it does smell a bit American. It doesn't just quite smell German and noble. Even, you know, when you've got the Hallertau Blancs and the Mandarina Bavarias, they do, even though they're higher alpha acid, they do still have that typical German grassiness and floral quality to them, and you get a bit of that out of it, but it doesn't smell like it's alone, so maybe there is another bittering hop in this one. But yeah, nice little bit of earthiness there, some nice floral aromaticity as well, but I think the green side of the hops really leans a bit more towards the grassy side of things, so it's quite grassy and quite bready in its backbone, this beer. So let's look at the fruity side of it. Yeah, definitely, as I say, you get a good bit of a kind of limey note out of it, but underneath the lime, I think the lime comes out and sort of lingers there the further you go into the aroma, but there is a wee bit of the kind of oranges that you expect of the Mandarina Bavaria, but there is a good little bit of melon there, there as well, to be honest with you. There almost comes, it almost smells, it really, I mean, if you know these hops, it really does come across kind of as you'd expect. I think it does lean a little bit, I don't find the orange too prominent in this one. I really think it leans more towards the kind of melony notes and a kind of quite wet smelling limey quality, to be honest. I don't find the citrusy orange that you would normally get. It's there, it's definitely there, but it doesn't come out quite as much. You don't really have a kind of sharper lemon to it or anything, and you know, maybe there is a wee little bit of like apricot or other tropical fruits underneath this one, but mainly limey and juicy, like I say. Nice little bit of a kind of a more oily orange, not so much tangerines. I think I said tangerines earlier, but more of a kind of oily orange, to be honest with you. Some juicy sort of melony notes too. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, this beer is kind of, it's got everything you expect. It does come across as being quite nice and sessionable, to be honest with you, and it reminds me quite a bit of the some of the Malmö Brewing Company IPAs that I've had. So yeah, let's have a look at this one then. Let's have a taste of it and just see how we go on. This one is the Ekuanot Call This IPA, a 6.5% New England IPA with Ekuanot, Styrian Wolf, and Mandarina Bavaria in it from Nyköping Nyköping Brewing Company, sorry, in Nyköping, a bit to the south of Stockholm. Let's get stuck into this one. Slanche Skål. Ooh, it's actually got a good bit of a kind of yeasty quality to it, in fairness. Okay, there's something that's telling me the yeast strain they've used in this is definitely quite sort of farmhousey. Something's telling me that that's a Vermont yeast strain in here, because when you take this beer in, you definitely get a little bit of that kind of woody, earthy kind of thing. It actually comes across as very kind of grainy and quite spicy, to be honest with you. So that sort of almost takes over. You'll find the middle of your palate really does get quite dry and almost spicy into the aftertaste with this one quite quickly. I do like how that goes together. It's not, it's a lot grainier than the aroma is going to have you believe, to be honest with you. I would not be surprised if this one is, I wouldn't be surprised if it's using one of these Vermont yeast strains, because it really comes across as quite, it's really more grainy than anything else actually. That's interesting, that. So yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this one. It smelled, you know, kind of what I would expect, but the flavour of this one is really a very, very grainy and almost, it's got a sort of quite a big grainy spice to it, to be honest with you. And usually when you use these Vermont ale yeasts and things, if that is what they're using, if not, they're using something very similar. Usually you have to have quite a bit of wheat and quite a bit of oats in it to sort of balance that out. But this one, this feels like they've used mainly barley malt in it, and they've used like a little bit of oats and wheat to kind of add flavour. So yeah, it's really more, this is definitely one of the kind of grainier It's definitely one of the grainier New England IPAs that you're going to come across, but I think most of these flavours that you're getting won't actually be from the malts. It's most likely to be from the yeast, I think. So yeah, just be aware of that when you try this one. So yeah, let's try and break the flavour of this down then. So straight away with this beer, you will get a little bit of that kind of you know, pale malty, bready quality, just blanket in the middle of your tongue. If you go towards the back third of your tongue, there really is quite a bit of bitiness off this one. It could, as I say, potentially be from the wheat, but then you get a few sort of woody, sort of peppery tones to this one. It really does give you a good bit of spice actually in the back of the palate. There is a good little bit of bitterness. I'm finding there is a good bit of bitterness on the side of the palate from this one as well. So I'm not sure about what the IBUs of this one could be, but yeah, on that back third of the tongue, as I say, quite a bit of a sort of peppery spice, good little bit of kind of just a bit of a kind of almost like grainy, spicy kind of brown bread or something like that, and a good bit of the wheaty bitiness there as well. As you move into the middle third of your tongue, you can feel the pale malty note starts to kind of pick up a little bit. You do get a little bit more of you do get a little bit more of a you do get a wee bit of a kind of thicker bready note forming there in the middle of the palate. And as you go towards the border between the front third of your tongue and the middle third of your tongue, there is a wee bit of a there is definitely a little bit of kind of oaty kind of smoothness to the beer there, but the wheat I think really gives you, it's got quite a bit of bitiness to it and almost just a bit of a grainy, peppery sort of thing. I really find this beer to be quite spicy actually compared to other New Englands that I've had. The other thing we've got to consider here is that the when we poured this one, the head did come out quite nicely on it, so maybe the wheat in this one is just very, very kind of spicy almost. But yeah, I really find this beer very spicy into the aftertaste. You go into the very centre of your palate, you do get a little almost island in the middle of your tongue where there's a wee bit of a very slight kind of Werther's Originally McVitie's Digestive biscuit sort of thing. That's the kind of boozy notes coming out of the beer. But I will say straight away, this is definitely not one of the thicker and creamier New England IPAs you get. It really leans towards the lighter and more grainy end of the spectrum, and it's quite unusual that actually. I think most breweries in Sweden tend to have them a little bit kind of smoother and creamier than this. So yeah, kudos to them for going a little bit of a different direction. But I wonder, I think the two areas that the sort of spicy character in this could come from would either be the yeast, or it would be the type, you know, the sort of wheaty, the wheat that they've used in this one. I think that's where you're most likely to get the spice from in this beer. But on the hoppy side of things then, in the back corners of the palate there is a good little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward along the side of the tongue, the earthiness fades away, but you do get a nice little bit of a floral aromatic spice out of this one. I wouldn't be surprised if this is about 40 IBUs. I think it does have a little bit more than your standard New England, and there's something just about the kind of spiciness that this beer has that makes me wonder if there is Columbus in this. There is just something distinctive about that spiciness there that tells me it's Columbus. But then round the very front curve of the tongue, you've got a bit of a lighter grassiness, and then, as I always say, in the front third of the tongue, behind the front curve of the palate, that's where you get the nice oily bubble where the juicy, fruity esters start to roll their way out of the beer. And I have to say, I do like the way that the fruitiness in this one comes out, and the bitterness really does build the further you go into the aftertaste as well. So with this beer then, if you go to that front third of your tongue, you can feel the graininess just kind of creeps forward a little bit underneath the kind of the slightly sweet centre that this beer has. But yeah, to me, this beer, it really leans towards the limes. I think, you know, when it's called Ekuanot, call this IPA. You know, it's not surprising that this one is leaning towards that kind of limey flavour that you would associate with Ekuanot. The other hops, of course, that can give you lime, Cashmere can give you it as well, but it's more of a juicy lemony lime. You know, Motueka from New Zealand also gives you some really nice limey characters. Are there any other ones? Various other hops can give you a bit of lemon lime, but those, the Motueka and the the Ekuanot are the big two, and then Cashmere and I think it's Styrian Fox from New Zealand, or Styrian Dragon, I forget. One of the other Slovenian hops can give you a sort of quite big lemon limey character, but yeah, the fruity side of this beer really leans towards that limey note. But yeah, at the back of that front third of the tongue, there is a bit of a kind of darker, almost, it's not grapefruity, but there's a very kind of dark, grainy bitterness coming out of it. But as you move further forward from the kind of border there, you start to get a bit of you do get a little bit of a melony quality out of it. The orangey, kind of more orangey, oily quality from the Mandarin of Bavaria sitting there as well. But as you go further into the flavour, I think the orange just takes a bit of a back seat, although it does juice up a little bit as well. But I think the limey notes start to push their way out of it a little bit more, and I find that the side of the palate gets a little bit more kind of spicy too, and more of the graininess is coming out as well. So really, I think a spicy, grainy type New England IPA, this one. I don't think I've had one quite as spicy as this before, but the mouthfeel, I think, is very, very light as well, actually. But yeah, I do find the more and more that I drink of this one, in fairness to it, it does kind of, it does smoothen out a little bit, but I think the graininess does persist a little bit. It's definitely not the thickest and soupiest of New Englands that you're going to come across. So yeah, this is definitely more for people who like the sort of farmhousey, grainy side of the New England style, actually. Let's say the bitterness in the middle of the palate there, from the grains, or from the yeast, whichever one it is, really sort of takes hold with this beer further in the aftertaste. But yeah, it is a nice, interesting take on the style, and I'm curious to try a few of their other IPAs and see what they're like as well. Maybe this one just particularly leans towards the yeasty notes or whatever, but an interesting one this, if you like a kind of citrusy, zesty type IPA, because you do get a good bit of that around the front part of the tongue. You do get to feel the kind of limey notes mixing in with the kind of grassiness, and it does become quite zesty on the tip of the palate. Then if you like a kind of citrusy, zesty New England IPA, this was one that might tick the boxes for you. But yeah, let's look at the mouthfeel of this one then. I think we've covered all we really need to with the flavour. When you take this in, actually, it does become quite juicy, and it's only later in the aftertaste that those grainy notes develop. So yeah, when you take the beer in, it's fairly wet. It's got a little bit of an oily character to it, and you get some of the nice juicy fruitiness there. But as you go further back on the palate, you really start to get some you really start to get a lot of that kind of graininess and breadiness there. The malt base, like I say, and the yeasty notes together, they are quite spicy at the back of the tongue. As you move further forward, it does smoothen out a bit, becomes a bit more bready, but the kind of grainy bitterness kind of creeps forward a little bit. Tiny touch of sweetness in the middle of the palate as well. In terms of the IBUs, I think this one's maybe sitting around 40, maybe 50 at a push. It does, but that's also coming from the kind of grainy side of the beer as well. But the fruits, I think, are very nice. It's got a little touch of oiliness to the fruit, but mainly quite juicy, and really leaning towards that limey end of the spectrum. But when it's called Ekuanot, call this IPA, it's you would expect it to be a little bit more limey. So yeah, it's a nice enough beer, this one. If you like a citrusy, zesty, or even grainy, more farmhousey type New England IPA, it will tick the boxes for you. I don't know if it's right to call this one farmhousey, because it's not quite as thick and doughy as you can get from some of those Alchemist heady topper and stuff like that. Would be the prime examples of that kind of style. But yeah, an interesting beer, this one, and it's always cool to review new breweries as well. I'm very curious to see how the Palace Pils turns out, so I'll need to see when I can film that one for you. But yeah, this was a really interesting beer to review. I hope you guys enjoyed my take on it. The Ekuanot call this IPA. It's 6.5% from Nyköping Brewing in Nyköping, a bit to the south of Stockholm. Really interesting, slightly spicy, citrusy, zesty New England IPA. So yeah, as always, thank you for watching my reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Nyköping Brewing Company as well. We will return to these guys fairly soon, and I'm curious to see what they put out over the next little while in Systembolaget. So yeah, the Ekuanot, call this IPA a 6.5% New England IPA from Nyköping Brewing Company in Nyköping to the south of Stockholm here in Sweden. Slanja, skål, catch you guys very soon. Cheers.